name is Lasantha Vitarnage. Today my presentation will briefly explain the accounting theory of stakeholder theory. After the Second World War, all the business enterprises were become an vital entity around the world, especially Europe and US. Company made a huge profit at this time, but very few made a losses. So that time people like to know why they made a loss and what theory they can apply to make a continuously profit. As a result, in 1970, Milton Friedman introduced shareholder theory, which is only consider the shareholders' wealth. After that, in 1984, Edward Freeman introduced stakeholders theory. This theory is system-oriented and there are some advantages and disadvantages. Cannot say this is the best accounting theory. However, I hope by the end of this presentation you will understand the stakeholders theory well. What is stakeholders theory? Stakeholders theory is a theory of organizational management and business ethics that address moral and value in managing an organization. This theory also used for corporate governance, business ethics, strategic management, and organizational effectiveness. Who are the stakeholders? Stakeholders can affect or be affected by the organization's actions, objectives, and policies. Some examples of key stakeholders are creditors, employees, customers, holders. Why stakeholders are important to the business? Because any business enterprise cannot maximize value if they ignore the interest of its stakeholders. Stakeholder theory incorporates the executive power model. The executive power model claims that the purpose of corporation is the maximization of shareholders' wealth. Analytical approach to stakeholders theory. Experts suggested that the research on stakeholders theory has proceeded along three often confused lines. First, there is the instrumental stakeholders theory, which assumes that if managers want to maximize the objective or function of their firm, then they must take stakeholders' interests into account. The second, descriptive research about how managers, firms, and stakeholders in fact interact. In third, there is a normative sense of stakeholders theory that prescribes what managers ought to do. The purpose of stakeholders theory is to help board of directors and management understand their stakeholders' environment and manage more effectively within the terms of the stakeholders' relationships that exist for their companies. It is also the purpose of stakeholders theory to help directors and managers improve the value of the consequences of their actions and minimize the harm to stakeholders. Argument about stakeholder theory. The main debate on stakeholder theory should be the ethical question. What are the companies for? Do they exist simply to make money for shareholders? Or do they have a wider role? Stakeholder theory is not always realistic. Good example for that, in 2004, HSBC Bank closed 3 call centers in the North England. Reason for that, they moved their branches to India to make a high profit. Due to this reason, more than 500,000 people suffer. Who are they? Customers, employees, suppliers. In that time, HSBC Bank did not care about the stakeholders. Finally, I could say stakeholders theory helps to maximize shareholders' wealth because all the stakeholders group contribute to the success of corporation. However, very few occasions managers and top managers have to take a decision without considering stakeholders to become a success of the corporation. I believe today you understand about stakeholders theory. Thank you for your time.